Okay. Okay, guys. So yesterday we were working in the speaking section. We went through task number 3, right? Do you remember how many tasks we had in the speaking section? How many are there?
Four.
4, exactly. And we've already seen task number 2 and 3. But today we're just gonna practice the third task. Let me see. Okay, guys. So remember for task 3, the things that you had to do were exactly the same as for task 2, right? So first thing is read a text, then you listen to in this case, it's not gonna be a conversation, but you listen to a lecture. And finally, you have to summarize the lecture, right? Well, you have to summarize both, but trying to focus a little bit more on the lecture. So we're gonna do that now. I don't know if you guys remember, but we said that the 3 main topics were psychology, biology, and business, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think yesterday we did 1 psychology and 1 business exam. So today we're gonna do a bit of everything. Okay, guys. So this is the first one we're gonna do. If you remember, you had first 45 seconds to read, right? What did you have to do when you read the text?
45 seconds.
Yes, during those 45 seconds, what do you have to do when you're reading?
Write the title and the description.
Exactly.
The topic.
Write down the title and the definition of the topic. Exactly. Okay. Like this. Okay, guys. So this is going to be the first one we do. You have the text on my screen, and you are going to have 45 seconds to read, and then we'll listen to the lecture. Okay, please start now. Okay, guys, so please, I'm sending you the link to the lecture. Listen to it, and then we'll do it. Okay, guys. Using the example discussed by the professor, explain what cognitive dissonance is and how people often deal with it. That is the question. Now you will have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, time's up. Would anyone like to try first? Does anyone want to try? No? Maybe Isaac, are you there?
Hi, teacher.
Hey.
Yes.
So do you mind going first?
Okay, I'm trying.
Okay, go ahead.
According to the passage, cognitive dissonance occurs when people perform action contrary to their belief. And the professor in the lecture gives example of he knew he had to study, but he preferred to play, and he can change that behavior. And mm, I don't listen more the teacher. Sorry.
Okay, so what happened?
No, I'm sick and I don't hear what.
Oh, okay, you couldn't hear to the example.
Yes.
All right, no problem there. But in that, okay, let's first, you were going really well. I like the fact that you started with your definition. I like the fact that you use your own words. So you said when people perform actions that are contrary to what they believe, right? So that's really good because you use your own words. You could just copy and paste what you have in the text, no problem. But I like the fact that you use your own words too. And I like the fact that it was just 15 seconds. So you manage your time for the introduction perfectly well. Now as for the example, you were starting really well. In fact, I really like how you used the tenses because you weren't making mistakes. You know, in this task, for this task specifically, I don't know if you guys remember, but in task number 2, remember that I told you that most of the tasks like try to get you to speak in a certain tense. So in this task, you may have to speak using the simple past. And you were doing that, right? You were saying, so the professor knew that he had to be good at school, but he was playing video games. So you're using past tenses. So grammar was going really well too. Now, one tip I can give you guys, and this is for everybody, this could happen the day of your test. Maybe you couldn't quite understand the example. That can happen. That actually happens a lot. You know, maybe you got distracted, or maybe there were some words that you didn't understand. So that kind of blurred the example. In those cases, what you have to do is try to improvise using the definition that you have. You already know a bit about the example, right? You were telling me already. So the professor knew that he had to be good at school, but he was playing video games. Now, since you know that the definition of cognitive dissonance is that when you do things that are contrary to what you believe in, then you have to use that definition to kind of improvise. So you could say something like, so the professor was doing certain actions that were, objecting, or that were opposite to what he actually believed in when he was in school. And this was causing some sort of contradiction within himself, and he had to deal with it, right? So I didn't really say anything new. I didn't really I didn't have any details of the real example, but I was just trying to improvise based on the definition that I have, which is something that I already know, right? So my advice for you guys, in case that ever happens and you don't really understand or you couldn't hear the example, use the definition that you have and use what you have here and try to apply it to the example. Even if you don't know what it's exactly about, you know that it has to be illustrating this concept. So you know that the professor should be experiencing this cognitive dissonance, right? You know that it's a kind of discomfort. So you could try to use that concept that you have and apply it to the example. Okay, guys, if you don't really know what the example was about. Is that okay? Any questions about that? So improvising is really important here. Now, anybody else would like to try?
I want to try, teacher.
Okay,
Sure.
yeah, perfect.
Do you have the template?
I do. Yes. Do you want me to show it on my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Of course, I can do that. Let's see. Okay, although the template, maybe I can do it here so that we don't change slides. Although the template was pretty much the introduction, right? That was the only thing. I'm gonna do it here. So you have to go like according to the reading passage or according to the passage. The title, so cognitive dissonance, is defined or occurs when, and you have to explain the definition, right? So cognitive dissonance occurs when your actions contradict your beliefs. And then you just have to say, the professor or in the lecture, the professor gives the example of, and then you explain the example, right? This was a template. I'm gonna put it here. Okay, Natalie. So you can go now.
Okay. According to the passage, cognitive dissonance is defined as contradictions between action and beliefs. In the lecture, the professor gives the example of when he was young, he was addicted to video games, and he was failed in his favorite major, chemistry. So he doesn't give up with video games, but he changed his perspective, and he thinks that he wants to be in the future, so he concentrates in other majors, and he tried to use that time to study other majors, so he could be a sociologist in the future.
You're a teacher.
Okay, thank you so much, Natalie. So it was really good. It was really good. I mean, your definition was clear, and then you explained the example, and it was coherent. It was exactly what the professor said. Now, some tips I can give you, and this is for everyone. The first one, and I'm gonna go back to the tenses, okay, because this is really important. So I know that it could be a little bit hard to use the simple past, right? It takes some practice. So one thing I can tell you guys is please make sure that you practice retelling stories. What I usually do when I'm just teaching ESL, not really the TOEFL, but in order to improve the use of the tenses, is, for example, I play YouTube videos of people doing the routines or something, and then I ask the students to retell the story. It's like, so she woke up at 8 a.m., right? She made her breakfast, she got dressed, she went to university, I don't know. So I'm trying to practice using those tenses, right? The simple past in that case. So try to do that on your own, right? Try to retell stories using the simple past, because that is what you're gonna have to do for most, like for this task specifically. Not every task is like this, not every question is like this, but some of them are gonna be. And maybe in your test, you will have a psychology one where you have to retell a story, and not using the tenses correctly could hurt your score, right? So practice using the tenses. So in this case, for example, you were mixing them a bit, right? You were using first the simple past, and we're saying he was failing in his favorite subject. He didn't want to give up. But then you were also mixing it with the simple present, and you were saying, so he thinks that he wants to be in the future, he concentrates. So you're kind of mixing simple past and simple present, right? My advice, one of them, if you think you can do it, practice and try to use the correct tense, which would be simple past. But if you think that you're really struggling, then there's another option, okay? And this is option number 2. And option number 2 is basically use the simple present. It's fine as long as you don't mix the tenses. So there's 2 ways in which you can tell a story. You can either use the simple past, right? That was option number 1, but you have to use it correctly. So every tense has to be in the simple past. You have to know the conjugations, the past participle, or the simple past form of each verb. Or option number 2, you're gonna use, but only the simple present. So for example, this story, you could tell it like this. You could say, so the professor is in high school. He loves this subject. He knows that he has to be good at it in order to become a sociologist. However, he is addicted to playing video games, right? Therefore, he doesn't know what to do. He's facing a conflict within himself. and he doesn't want to give up, so he does this and that. So I'm only using the simple present. And I don't know if you think it's correct, if it sounds okay for you, but it's actually acceptable to use the simple present to tell these stories, okay? But the thing is, you can never mix them, okay? That's something that you can not do. So it's either only the simple past, which would be the more appropriate thing to do, but if you feel that you're just gonna make mistakes, then only use the simple present, okay? But try not to mix the tenses. That would be my advice for this task in terms of the grammar. Now, what else? I think that's it. Okay, that would be the only thing that I could say. Any questions about this part specifically? This is really important, the grammar part. No questions?
Teacher, I have a question. In the part that
Yes.
says the professor gives example of when he was young, or of that when he was young, or is it correct? With when directly?
Yes, the professor gives
Okay.
the example of when he was young is fine.
Okay.
Or you could say the professor gives an example of his own experience, right? And then explain, maybe. But you wouldn't need that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Any other question? Okay. Now this was in terms of the grammar part, right? Grammar only. Now what about content? What do you guys think? Remember what I said last class? This is exactly the same. So what you have to do is identify the definition, right? What is the definition? Your definitions were great. What was it? What's cognitive dissonance? It's the contradiction between your actions and your beliefs, right? Is basically that discomfort that the contradiction between your actions and your beliefs cause. That's cognitive dissonance. Now, what you have to do when you're listening to the lecture is, remember, focus on this definition. So you wanna hear what the contradiction was. You wanna know what the actions were and what the beliefs were. So what were the professor's beliefs when he was younger? What were his beliefs?
To be an excellent professional, he had to be good in all the subjects.
Exactly. So you have to mention that. You have to say, well, when he was younger, the professor believed that in order to be a good professional, he had to do well in all of his subjects, right, at school. That was his belief. Now, what were his actions?
He failed chemistry because of playing video games.
What was he doing? What was the problem?
He was addicted to play video games, so he couldn't focus on the chemistry class.
Exactly, perfect. So his actions were that he was addicted to video games, exactly, and therefore he couldn't do well in his chemistry class, right? He was failing in his chemistry class. So those were the beliefs and their actions. And as you can see, they are contradicting each other, right? Because he believed that he had to do well at all of his subjects, but he was failing one. So his actions were contradicting his beliefs. That was the cognitive dissonance that he was experiencing, right? So what happened? How did he deal with this? What did he do?
He changed his perspective.
Exactly. He changed his beliefs, right? He changed his interpretation of the situation in a way that minimized the contradiction that he was experiencing. How? he stopped believing that he had to do well at all of his subjects, and he only believed that he had to do well at the subjects that were related to what he wanted to major in, right, which was sociology. So he changed his beliefs in order to minimize the contradiction. And that's what you have to focus on, right? Not really the details. You have to make sure that you find the connection between the two of them. So when you're telling the example, you can do something like this. You can say, the professor gives an example of his own. He explains that when he was in school, he thought that he had to do well at all of his subjects in order to be a good professional. However, since he was addicted to video games, he was failing one class. He was failing chemistry. This contradicted his beliefs because he thought that he had to do well at a lot of his subjects, but he was failing one. So what he did in order to minimize this contradiction was change the interpretation and start believing that he only had to do well at the subjects that were related to what he wanted to study, right? So that should be the focus of your response. Basically, you have to do what the question asks, right? Using that example, explain this concept. Okay? Is this okay, you guys? Any questions? Okay. So now let's do a biology example. We're gonna do this one here. Okay? Same thing, you will have 45 seconds to read the text. And here's the time. You may start now. Okay, guys, I just sent the link. Please listen to the lecture. Okay, guys. Now the question is, using the examples from the peanut bag and the morpho butterfly, explain the concept of revealing coloration. Okay? You will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. All right, time's up. Would anyone like to try?
I would like to try, teacher.
Okay, great. So let's see. Do you want the template?
Yes, please.
Okay, of course. So please, you can go ahead now.
Okay. According to the passage, revealing coloration is defined as one defensive strategy involving the use of coloration. In the lecture, the professor gives two examples. The first one about the peanut bag, that in his back wings he has these big bright colors. When the peanut bag is attacked, it flaps his wings and makes the animal that is attacking to it make confused, and he can fly away. Another animal that the professor talked about, it's about the morpho butterfly, that it's used to be attacked by birds, and at the same, it flaps his wings and reflects light for confusing the animal that it's attacking it.
Okay, thank you. All right. So what do you think? Was this one harder than the other ones?
Yes, it was.
It was, right? There's more content, vocabulary. I mean, there's more vocabulary. It's more technical. It may be harder to understand too. And it's harder to summarize, right? Because it's kind of like everything is important. So you have to mention most of the lecture in such a short time. But it's not impossible. And we're going to practice more biology. Now, I liked your definition. You made it in the 15 seconds. You mentioned the two examples, and both were okay. In both of them, you explained the revealing coloration, right? So it's a coloration that's hidden in the animal, and then it's revealed. It's gonna be either to escape predators or to catch prey, right? Those two examples, believe me, you're gonna see them a lot for biology topics. Sometimes they talk about like functions that animals have, either to escape predators or to catch prey. Okay? Like, for example, the first one, you said that the peanut bag is trying to escape the attacker, right? But I think it was the other way around. The peanut bag uses revealing coloration in order to catch prey, to catch their food. And the morpho butterfly is the one that uses it to escape predators. Okay? So if you have those terms, then it will be easier for you to explain it. There's an ambulance. Okay, sorry. And actually that relates to the fact, that relates to vocabulary, right? I remember yesterday I was telling you there's a specific vocabulary for this task, for this task and every other task, right? In the speaking section. I'm gonna share with you right now the document that I was telling you about, vocabulary. And here you will find different words related to business, biology, psychology, also university or college life. So I will share this file with you right now. Okay. Okay, there you go. But your response was pretty good, Abby. Now, some tips I can give you. First one, you were struggling a little bit with the pronouns, right? So you were using the pronoun he, him, his to refer to animals. So you were saying the peanut bag, his back wings. Now that isn't totally wrong, right? For example, when we talk about dogs, generally we use she or he, right? If it's a female dog, we say she, and if it's male, we say he. But formally speaking, the right pronoun, it will have to be it, right? So when you talk about animals, you should use the pronoun it. Now, I know that that can be a little bit tough. It's hard to remember to use the same pronoun. So my advice, every time that from now on you're going to talk about animals and plants, try to always make it plural. So instead of talking about one peanut bag, talk about the species in general. So you're going to use the pronoun they, which is easier, right? So you're going to say, so they are attacked by birds. They have wings. They use this mechanism, this defense mechanism. So their wings, their predator, their prey, their food, everything with the pronoun they. So everything's going to be in plural, and that's going to make your life easier because you're not going to have to remember to use the pronoun it, right? Which is is not as used as this one here. So that could be one tip. And yeah, another thing is you don't really have to say everything you hear in the biology topics. It's fine if you skip some parts, some details. The important thing is always going to be what is related to the concept, right? So how the peanut bag uses this mechanism, how the peanut bag has certain colors that are hidden, and when they are trying to catch prey, they reveal them. And same thing for the morpho butterfly. Okay, guys? Any questions about this one? No? Okay. So let's do another one. What do you guys want to do? Psychology, biology, or business?
Business.
Business.
Okay, let's do business then. Okay. Here we go. So same thing here, you will have 45 seconds to read the text. And you can start reading now. Okay, guys, I already sent you the link. Okay, guys. Okay, guys. Using the example given by the professor, explain how franchising works. You will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, who would like to try? Anyone? Maybe just, I will just mean, I think. She's not there. Juslan, what about you?
Yes, I will
Okay.
try.
Great. Go.
Okay. According to the passage, franchising is defined when someone pay an established company for the right to use the company's name and sells the companies that provide. In the lecture, the people talk about when you pay an established company, you have to sell the things as and prepare it, or you have to prepare your store as they want. And they give an example, then they will show how to make, in this case, the pizzas and how the store will look as Pizza Town, and they will sell a lot of pizzas.
Okay, great. Thanks, Juslan. So I like your response. Your definition was correct. You made it in 20 seconds. It's not bad. Just one tip, one tiny tip. I noticed that, well, after you gave the definition, you said, well, in the lecture, the people, careful there, right? The professor talks about, and then you explain in general, again, what franchising is, right? And how it works. You explain that you have to prepare your store the way they do it. You have to do you have to prepare the products the way they do it. You have to sell them the way they do it, do the marketing and stuff. So you explain, generally speaking, how it works, but you generalized it too much. And then only at the end, when you have like 20 seconds, only then you started talking about the example, right? About the pizza place. So my advice is, as soon as you're done with the definition, you have to start talking about the example. Because in general, in the speaking section, and also in the writing, you will see later, the listenings are always more important than the readings. So you have to always focus more on the listening. That's why the question said, right? Using the example of the lecture, explain the definition. So you have to use that example of Pizza Town to explain those concepts that you were telling me, right? You have to use that example to explain that you have to prepare pizza in the way they do it. You have to prepare your store and so on. So you have to use that example. Okay, so don't generalize it too much. Always make sure that you explain the example. Okay, that'd be the only thing. Okay, guys. So any questions about this one? Would anyone else like to go? No? Do you want to do one more? Do you have some time? Let's do one more, right? It's not going to take us that long. Let's see. I don't know which one. Okay. So now, same thing, you will have 45 seconds to read. Okay, I'm gonna put it. Okay, the link was sent. Okay, the question says, using the example from the lecture, explain the comfort zone bias. You will now have 30 seconds to prepare your responses. Okay, so does anyone want to try? No?
Teacher, I'm confused because the article is about comfort zone, the lecture was about career choices.
Okay.
It is correct.
Was it about a guy that wanted to be a film reviewer?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's correct.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. You don't see the connection?
No, I saw it, but I was confused.
Okay. All right, no problem. So would anyone like to go? Come on, guys. Maybe just me?
Teacher, actually, in my case, the audio it's I can hear very well. It is like when you are about internet connection.
Okay.
It's
So
like
maybe it was
some parts.
okay. Did anyone else have this problem? No? Okay, maybe it was your connection. Somebody else then? Does anyone want to go?
I would try
Me.
again, teacher.
Okay, yes, of course, Abby. Go ahead.
Okay. According to the passage, comfort zone bias is defined as preferring remaining in comfortable familiar situations rather than entering into new ones. In the lecture, the professor gives the example of a friend of his that studied for being a film viewer, and because he loved writing about movies, but he couldn't find a job, so he became a news reporter, and he get used to that job. But and after some time, he got offered the job of a film viewer, and it even paid more. But he got used to his job, so he rejected it, because he said it might not work out.
Okay, perfect. That was really great. Well done, Evie. Awesome. So nice. I mean, even your time management, your 15 first seconds were your first 15 seconds were for the definition, it was correct. The way you explained the example too, the grammar, your tenses were all correct. There was just one, but that wouldn't be a problem. And I like the fact that you summarized based on what was the most important part, right? So he wanted to be a film reviewer. He studied for it. He didn't get the job, so he got a job as a news reporter, I think. He got used to it. And when he had the chance to have his dream job, he rejected it. He turned it down because he was experiencing this comfort zone bias, right? He was already too used to the idea of being a news reporter. He didn't want to try something new. So I really loved your response. I don't have any comments. Maybe one thing, and this is something completely extra, like just to top it off. Maybe at the end, as a short conclusion, which isn't really a conclusion, you could repeat the title. Okay, so he turned down the job because he was experiencing this concept, this phenomenon, right? He was experiencing comfort zone bias, or whatever. So maybe that will be like just like the cherry on top. But it was really perfect. Well done, Edmi.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Anybody else? Any other volunteer? Okay. Then what do you guys think? Do you have any questions, any comments? Is it clear? No questions? All right. So with that, we're done with the speaking task 3. Next class will be all about task number 4. Then we'll practice 2 and we'll move on to the writing section. If you don't have any questions, don't forget before you go to fill out the survey. I'm gonna send it to you right now. Please, if you could fill it out for me, our daily survey. Okay, guys, thank you so much. I will be seeing you then next week. Have a great weekend.
Bye, teacher. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, teacher.
Bye, guys.